We've all experienced it at some point in our lives. A new fast food restaurant comes to town. A Wingstop. A Raisin Cane's. A Duck Donuts. And everybody freaks out. The hype is through the roof. And those places get a lot of volume for a couple weeks, maybe a couple months, depending on the situation. And then the pattern regulates. The funny thing about this is, though, Chick-fil-A never closed. Except for on Sundays, of course. And that line is still going out to the main road during rush hour of people trying to get their food through the drive-thru. Even though Chick-fil-A has excellent service, it's very hard to contain that volume. That's how I feel about the Big Ten and Ohio State's positioning within it going into the season. Ohio State feels like Chick-fil-A. They're that constant. They're always there. New restaurants may arrive, and there may be a lot of hype surrounding them. But Ohio State's that constant that never changes, and they're always a legitimate competitor within the Big Ten. There's been a lot of talk about Penn State this year. A lot of analysts are very high on them, and they should be. They have a lot of returning production. This may be the best Penn State team that we've ever seen. And so there's a valid reason why a lot of analysts have them at number one on their respective polls or have them picked to win the national championship. Oregon has an immensely talented team, and it's coupled with a very manageable schedule. So there's reason to have a lot of expectations for that team. And both Penn State and Oregon are in that scenario where they're trying to break through the glass ceiling. It's like the Bills and the Ravens in the NFL trying to break through the glass ceiling that is the Kansas City Chiefs. But year in and year out, it's a struggle. You saw Ohio State claim that national championship last year. Penn State, it's been a while. Oregon has never done it. And a lot of people want to see them do it. And there's a lot of optimism and excitement when it comes to these teams this year because that feeling is in the air that this could be the year. The only thing that I ask in the midst of all this excitement, and it's justifiable, do not forget about the Ohio State Buckeyes. Because like Drake said, I think 10 years ago, they are still here. It felt like it was pretty much a foregone conclusion. Like I heard this from a lot of people, a lot of different people, after Ohio State won the national championship back in January, that, yeah, it's a great story, fantastic run, but they won't repeat next year. The 12-team playoff is just too challenging to navigate, that path, that journey. It's hard to make it 2 years in a row. And I somewhat agree with that statement. I do. I resonate with that because that path is going to be a lot more challenging. But there's no rule, there's no stipulation out there that says that just because a team won a national championship one year, that they can't do it again. Is it challenging? Yes. But it's very possible. Alabama has done it several times. And I think that these Ohio State Buckeyes have a legitimate chance at doing it this year as well. Just recently, Ohio State named their QB1, Julian Sayin. I was expecting it to be him this whole time, and it just got confirmed on Monday. He's throwing to one of the best wide receiver duos in college football, in Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate. Jeremiah Smith, there is no debate. As a sophomore, he is the best wide receiver in college football, and his level of stardom is through the roof. I don't know if y'all saw that video the other day of him walking through the Polaris shop and people chase him down to get autographs. You know, you got grown-ass men in their 40s saying, "This is my hero." Like, that's the level of player that Jeremiah Smith is, that Ohio State has in him. Ohio State's offensive line, it's still being developed. It's still being constructed right now. But they have a good problem, and that's a problem of depth. Kind of like Notre Dame's quarterback situation. Ohio State's staff isn't looking at this offensive line saying, "Shit, do we have 5 guys that we think can go out there and consistently protect Julian Sayin and allow him to go through his progressions, make good reads, make good decisions. They know they have those guys. It's just which combination of those 5 guys is going to be starting here in a couple weeks against Texas. Ohio State's defensive line, it is inexperienced. But I cannot wait to see what guys like Cade McDonald's and Edric Houston are going to do this year, because I think they're going to be insanely productive. And y'all, let's not forget about Ohio State's secondary, which is one of the single best units in the entire nation. Of course, you have one of the best defensive players in college football in Caleb Downs returning to Columbus this year. He very well could get picked in the top 10 in the NFL draft come April. And Downs is playing alongside guys like Davison Igbinosun, Jalen McClain, and Jermaine Matthews Jr. This secondary is absolutely stacked. And I would hate to be a wide receiver who wants to put up numbers going up against it. Let's look at Ohio State's odds and projections for this year, if you will. FanDuel has them with an over-under win total of 10.5 wins. I think there's a good chance that they can exceed that. They're also tied for the second highest national championship odds with Georgia, just behind Texas, and that's according to FanDuel as well. This is the most important statistic to me. Ohio State is tied with Alabama for the highest blue chip ratio in the nation at 89%. That is a damn high blue chip ratio, I must say, for both those respective squads. And I know I have Alabama winning it all, but Ohio State is going to make a hell of a push. They may even be in the national championship game. They may even win it. You know, my word isn't gold. I'm not confirming Alabama's going to win this thing. Ohio State very well could be hoisting the trophy once again come January. A very talented team. The blue chip ratio is predicted accurately like the past 9 national champions as well. So they could make it 10 in a row this year. Lastly, I want to end this video with this. Ohio State has plenty of motivation going into this year, because that's always a question from everybody. When you win a national championship, how much are you battling complacency? How much are you battling the disease of me? I don't think it's going to be an issue for Ohio State. Number one, because a lot of guys went to the league. There was some turnover, but there's a lot of talented young bucks who are motivated to make their name, to make themselves known, not only within the Big Ten, but within the national scope as well. Another route of motivation for Ohio State, the yeah buts. And I hate yeah buts, but there's a lot of them surrounding this Buckeye squad this year. Yeah, they won the national championship, but they wouldn't have had a shot if it wasn't a 12-team playoff. They were the 8th seed. They wouldn't have made it if it were just a year prior. Yeah, but they went through an absolute gauntlet of a schedule of 4 games to hoist that trophy. Hosting Tennessee, who had a great rushing attack, great defensive front. Going up against Oregon, who hadn't lost a game until that point. Going against Texas, who I think was the second best team in the nation behind Ohio State last year. And then Notre Dame, a team who, like Ohio State, clawed their way to the national championship. Very detail-oriented team, very well-coached team, very gritty team. And Ohio State dominated 3 of those 4 games. I think it was pretty damn impressive. I don't think there's any room for a yeah but in that discussion. The other yeah but. Yeah, they won the national championship, but they lost to Michigan. And this one's a bit more legit because you gotta understand the magnitude of this rivalry. Ohio State hasn't beat Michigan since 2019. It sounds crazy me even saying that. But yeah, it has been 6 years since Ohio State has beaten Michigan. That's motivation for this year as well. To go up to Ann Arbor and beat that team up north and maybe plant their flag on Michigan's logo if they go to that length. But those are 2 great sources of motivation going into this year. And I think that a lot of people in this program and players have the feeling that their head coach still isn't nationally respected. There's a lot of yeah buts surrounding Ryan Day as well. You'd think that just because he won a national championship, he would get that head nod, that he would get that hat flip, that he would get the acknowledgement of, yes, you're a national championship coach, you're a great coach. He still hasn't gotten that acknowledgement. He's still very much disrespected by a lot of people in media and a lot of consumers of the sport. And so there's that continued urge of wanting to prove yourself, prove that you're elite if you're Ryan Day. Even though, reasonable people, we know he is. But there's that extra layer of motivation. So you've got an extremely talented roster despite turnover. You have a scenario where, of course, Vegas is heavily valuing Ohio State. I'm not saying they aren't, but they're not being talked about as much as a Penn State or an Oregon, because that's who I feel the general public wants to see break through the glass ceiling this year. And then you've got that motivation from the buts if you're Ohio State. I think that's a recipe to go back to the semifinals and to possibly go back to the national championship and to possibly hoist that damn trophy again if you're Ohio State this year. Let me know what y'all think of this video in the comment section below. Thank y'all for watching. Have a great day.